What's up, Wolverine Nation? Welcome to Week 8 of Waiver Wire. I'm Jake Camejo.
I'm Victor Torres.
I'm Matthew Barturin.
And this week we have another very special guest, Javi Suarez. Welcome to the show, Javi.
Good to see you guys. How are you guys?
I'm great. Thank you for asking.
Great, thank you.
Guys, thoughts on Week 7?
Another Sunday night win from the Dolphins against your own Steelers. Javi, how about it?
It's not cool. 4 dropped interceptions. That's ridiculous.
I'm not taking that game from Tua. If I'm Tua, that's an L in my book.
You take the win. You take the win and you move
Awful
on.
performance in my head.
Awful.
Another awful performance from the Saints also.
All I hear is W's, so.
No, I'll
That's all I
high five
see.
you on that one. I don't really like the Saints that
Yeah,
much.
the Saints, another
Let's go,
loss.
baby.
Another loss. Yeah, guys. Whatever.
How about the quarterback?
Saints?
We're taking for Caleb Williams. That's all I'm saying.
How about the QB situation in New England also?
Yeah, Bailey Zapp.
Guys,
Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones.
Guys, I got zapped. You know, I'm riding Bailey Zappi for the rest of the year. I think he's
Love it.
ridiculous. I think he's ridiculous.
Yeah, and being, so improbable, he was like, nobody even like basically knew him until like now when he started like blowing up, so.
For sure.
Which is great to see. We always love a good story.
But
Like how many people knew he broke Joe Burrow's touchdown record in college?
I did actually.
I did.
Or you guys knew that. We knew that. But still, like how many NFL fans knew that?
Not many.
Not a lot,
many,
but
not many.
it's
You're
good.
right
It's
about
good to
that.
see how that case is gonna develop.
Let's see how that goes. So, Javi,
Just how we're gonna develop into our pickups right now, Jake.
Wow,
Smooth.
that was very smooth. Javi,
Chef's
who's your sneaky pickup of the week?
Man, it's the tight end from Denver, Greg Dulcich. I'm going to go Greg Dulcich this week because he's proven both by Brett Rypien and Russell Wilson that he is a high target tight end, and he's finding those holes in the defense. And when you got guys like Sutton and Judy and KJ Hamler who are always trying to find their way to get open, Dulcich just is open because he's getting, like last week he had 9 targets for 6 receptions and 51 yards. That's 11 to 12 points. And you know what? In today's league where tight ends are very slim, Dalton Schultz was out for a couple of weeks. It's Kittle, Mark Andrews, and Travis Kelce. If you have one of the 3, you're set. You got to rely on a guy like Greg Dulcich for the rest of the year because you can't really find other tight ends. Take it from me. I drafted Kyle Pitts. So
And that has not.
That has not
well.
worked out for you, Javi.
well.
But especially with all these, you're talking about these injuries. All these tight ends have been injured. It just recently, David Njoku's out for 5 weeks with an ankle injury, which is terrible. I had him on my league. He was carrying my team. Had 2 weeks in fantasy, getting 15 points a game. But it sucks to see him out. But in a tight end spot, you don't need the huge 20-point games, which we would all love them. But from a tight end, you want the 10.
You need that
consistency
consistency.
because you don't want a guy's gonna get 20 points and he's gonna have 0, 5.
Yeah.
you don't need touchdowns.
You need
Yeah,
volume.
you
That's
need
that's our
volume.
that's our
You
thing
need
here. We need volume.
And when
you need,
you're a guy like Dulcich getting 9 targets a game, that's good volume, dude.
for sure.
So
Speaking of volume, this guy is gonna get a ton of volume, in my opinion. So Gus Edwards, the Ravens back. Now, even though I said to pick up Kenyon Drake, I'm saying drop him for Gus Edwards this week.
Okay.
So the Baltimore Ravens back, he bursted onto the scene this week with 66 yards, 2 touchdowns, and on 16 carries for a season debut, which is great science from a guy who destroyed his knee last year earlier in the season. He will take the lead back role from Kenyon Drake as J.K. Dobbins is still going to be out for another 5 to 7 weeks, which sucks from J.K. Dobbins because I drafted him 1, and 2, he's a great talent that we haven't been able to see him produce on the NFL level. And also, Gus Edwards gets a ton of touches on the regular field, and you know me, I love my goal line touches, and this guy gets a ton. It's
He
like
works on that goal line.
that's his job.
It's ridiculous how often they're giving him the ball inside the 10, 20-yard line because, I mean, what they give it to Mark Andrews or Gus Edwards now, and I think it's going to be a big couple of weeks for Gus
Obviously,
Edwards.
Mark Andrews had that little drop-off game.
Oh, he had that goose egg. It was literally 0
Not
points.
drop off, terrible
Just
game.
bad. It was just bad.
He had a good handoff though to Lamar.
On National Tight End Day.
National tight end day, disappointing your tight end
That
has to
wasn't
be the
even a
worst
handoff.
feeling.
Yeah, that's
The pitch to Lamar.
It was a nice little pitch.
Nice. Yeah. So, Vic, let's see if how your pickup does this week. Who's your pickup?
My pickup is Chargers wide receiver DeAndre Carter. So this Chargers receiving core is super weird right now because you have Keenan Allen just coming off an injury, and then you have Mike Williams just getting injured. He had a nasty looking ankle injury, and he's confirmed a high ankle sprain. So he's out for roughly 4 weeks. I mean, it's a very suspect injury. You never know how long it could be. So, and I don't think Keenan Allen's 100% healthy. Like, obviously he is healthy, but, he's one wrong step away. DeAndre Carter is the wide receiver 1 in that offense. And he hasn't been big play, 10 targets a game, 8 catches. Like, he's just been very consistently getting targets. He's on the field all the time. So I think that this is a player that you need to just have him on your lineup in case of that misstep from Keenan Allen, that misstep from anybody on that team. It's a super explosive offense. Justin Herbert's still a great quarterback. He hasn't shown it. He hasn't played to the level that we expect him to play. But I think anybody on that offense could break away a big play, and DeAndre Carter's been that guy.
Well, I mean, I still think Joshua Palmer is a bigger role, but he is a little hurt, so I'm going to give you that. I'll give you that one.
I will say I did look at it. Joshua Palmer does have a lot more targets, but
Yeah.
DeAndre Carter is the one that is the only receiver in that receiving room that is fully healthy.
And the other thing I wanted to mention was, you guys have to realize that Herbert, even though he's not playing to the fullest, is still QB6 right now.
In fantasy, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Even
he's been distributing the ball like it's easy. Even when he's trailing games, of course he's been trailing games. So they're gonna pass the ball. And with J.C. Jackson out for the year now, teams are gonna probably be up against them. So I still think that although the Chargers have an explosive offense, I think they're gonna pass more than run the ball with Eckler. So
playing from behind is a best friend in fantasy.
Yeah,
for receivers.
For
Yeah,
receivers,
yeah.
at least it
Yeah,
is, not
for
running
sure.
backs. Yeah, but Justin Herbert. We're talking about Justin Herbert not producing. He still is getting like last week. He got 18 points when he was. I started him. He the first quarter he had -4 points at one point, which was crazy for me for him to finish with 18 points. He's getting a ton of yards as they're coming out from games, as you said earlier. Which is 100% true. So Matt, who's your pickup this week?
My pickup is Falcons running back Tyler Algier. So he's only 30% rostered. Last week he had 16 carries for 50 yards and a touchdown against a tough Cincinnati defense. I think he's going to improve over the coming weeks. His volume is definitely something to take into consideration. And I think he's definitely somebody you should consider for your bench at least. And in case of emergency, you could definitely put him in that flex spot or something. And this week he also plays Carolina, who had a good week last week against Tampa Bay, but in that shocking win.
Yeah.
that's crazy.
But I think he, based on his volume, 16 carries out of the 24 carries that they had, definitely he seems like that guy right now. So
Well,
I think you should definitely.
Besides that touchdown steal from Kyle Pitts, he scored, and I think also you got to realize that other than Derek Brown and Brian Burns, Carolina has nobody.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
they're gonna run the ball. They're gonna pound that ball, and they're eventually gonna score a couple. I see Tyler Algier scoring at least
A touchdown.
once.
He's got to get in.
but
Yeah,
maybe
for
two.
sure.
Hot take. I think he scores twice this week.
I
Yeah,
like
we'll
it.
see. Hopefully, I think he's definitely has some upside for this week.
Well, I would say he's a great back, but the one week I would say him is against the Saints in my humble
Oh,
opinion.
this guy.
That's
Unbiased.
what I'm saying. That's what
Why
I'm
is he on the
saying.
show?
Next.
Why is he on
I
the
don't
show?
Get out of here.
I don't know why. You know why I'm on the show, Victor? Because I've won the past 3 weeks. But not this week, though, because no one won this week because our
No.
picks were all terrible last week.
3
So,
for 3, like I said.
yeah, whatever you say, Ali. So, after our sneaky little pickups that we like to keep in the back of our pockets, who's our starts that we're going to show out to the world?
Oh, easily I'm picking Brian Robinson. And you're thinking why? First off, he's playing a tough defense. I mean, well, tough, but they're banged up. They are banged up. So he got 20 touches last week and 2 receptions. That's in a game where they passed the ball predominantly. That's pretty ridiculous. That someone who just got shot 3 or 4 months ago now is just manhandling NFL players like it's his like he's a veteran. I think with the 73 yards he got last week, I think he's bound to have another 24 touch game, maybe catch a couple balls, and I think he scores for sure. And I think he's gonna blow up this week.
Obviously, that Packers defense is super good. I think even though the Packers have played very bad, it's a good front seven. It's a roster. That defense especially is a front seven and a secondary full of players that are like household names. And I think Brian Robinson, we've talked about him on the show.
Yeah, it was a pickup like 2 weeks ago.
A couple weeks ago, yeah,
It's good to see my pickups being
moved up into the start. Moved up into the start area.
Thank you.
Look at it. They're starting Ellinger for the rest of the year. Indianapolis is starting Ellinger for the rest of the year. So I think they're also going to start playing from behind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like at one point the Indianapolis' defense is just going to give up, dude. They can't keep covering for the fact that Ellinger may not be able to score. And it's just like, honestly, it's just like the Steelers. You know, you can only handle so much before Josh Allen drops 500 yards on you. So
Yeah.
I feel that
I get that.
Indianapolis, I think their defense is good, but imagine they have Shaq Leonard out, and they have Kenny Moore, who's listed as questionable, and they have DeForest Buckner, who's also listed as questionable. So I think that Brian Robinson may have a boom game this week.
For sure.
So, but it's at Indy, so I don't know.
So, but yeah, let's see how that turns out. I know you guys are gonna hate me for my pickup of the week, but it's Saints wide receiver Chris Olave.
Boo!
Well, I don't know why you're booming. I don't know why you're booming here because
It's a great
now
pick.
even
It's a great start. We can't argue
you
it.
know, I know it kind of seems obvious this week, so I won't. If he booms, which he's gonna boom because he's the greatest receiver in the NFL.
Relax.
Nah, I'm joking. But it's all jokes though. But the Saints have lost 5 of their last 6 games, but the rookie receiver has shown a ton of promise. Not only does he lead the league in air yards, he's ahead of guys like Jamar Chase. He's ahead of guys like T. Higgins. He's ahead of guys like a lot of receivers. I can't name them on the top of my head, but he's recorded at least 80 receiving yards in the 3 of his last 5 outings. He scored a touchdown in 2 of those games where he failed to crack 80 yards. And this Raiders defense has been allowing 262 passing yards per game this season, which ranks 27th in the NFL. And not only it's the Raiders, Andy Dalton, now even though he threw the 2 pick sixes the last game, he threw for like almost 400 yards against the Cardinals defense. So this Saints team, even though I expected it to be a run heavy team with Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara because of all Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry's out, we've been passing the ball and it's been working with Shaheed,
Shaheed.
2 touches and he's had 2 touchdowns in the NFL, which is crazy. But let's talk about Chris Olave, number 12, the best rookie receiver in the NFL. But I think he's gonna boom this week against a bad Raiders defense, and I mean, I could say he could be a top 10 receiver this week for numbers.
Oh, 100%. He's been great. Especially recently, he's been great. Very solid. He's getting a lot of targets, and he's obviously super talented, so that definitely helps him out there. So.
Well, I actually think Jameis Winston's coming back this week.
Yeah, he is.
It may open up his deep touches too. Maybe he catches a big ball for 50, 60 yards. Who knows? But I think he's a dog. He's not the best rookie receiver behind George Pickens, but I think he boomed this week.
No, yeah. Even Andy Dalton's more of the safer pick because we don't know how Jameis's back injury is gonna end up. So if Jameis does start, which I'm Dennis Allen seems like he's gonna start this week. I think the big play potential is through the
But I think
now.
either way he's still gonna put up numbers.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Last week he had like 17 points.
He's one of those players that it's like good quarterback or not, he's down to he's gonna get open.
Yeah,
that's what he does.
Which is hopefully he gets open in the end zone to help the Saints win this week. Who's your start?
My start is Dante Foreman. I'm gonna be honest, I've heard 3 different ways to say his name, but I'm gonna say Dante Foreman, Panthers running back. Obviously, we just mentioned the Panthers came off a shocking win against a Buccaneers team that was supposed to blow them out. Foreman had 17 total touches, even with Chuba Hubbard being announced as a starter earlier in the week. And Hubbard only had 9 carries. He had the touchdown, but Foreman outproduced him by a mile. He had over 100 yards, and Chuba Hubbard might be hurt, so there's a chance that those 17 carries turn into 20, 25. A lot of just plays. And they play Atlanta, which Atlanta's defense is bad. Grady Jarrett has been terrible, and I don't even think I can name anyone else on that front 7 if you want me to be honest.
Maybe Deion Jones.
Deion Jones just got traded to the Browns like a couple weeks ago, so
wow,
clearly
I know
this
nothing
guy.
about football. Did not listen to me for any football knowledge whatsoever. Sorry about that.
But Atlanta's defense is flat out bad, and it's a very favorable running match. The Panthers' O-line is actually pretty solid. I don't think it's top tier, but it's done enough to get. Obviously, McCaffrey's played well until before the trade.
Until he got sent down to the Bay.
But Dante Foreman, super talented back, and I feel like this always ends up happening. This happened last year when he was in Tennessee, that he just randomly had to take over the running role, and he balled out. And as I mentioned, Atlanta's defense is bad. Bad defenses create good matchups. It's that simple. Dante Foreman is due for a huge week. Expect 20-plus touches, and we know we love it here. Volume is key to fantasy success.
I think he could kind of step into that, kind of like what Alexander Madison does in Minnesota.
That's exactly what I think.
Whenever Dalvin Cook's out, Madison comes in and he does super well, 20-plus touches, 100-plus yards. Yeah. So I think Dante Foreman definitely fills that role perfectly.
Yeah, I'm also not sure if Chuba Hubbard's more of the receiving back, but that's what I get from Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard's out. Dante Foreman isn't a terrible receiver, so they'll give him receiving touches and obviously just running back touches.
Well,
so
if you look at last week, Steve Wilkes, he kind of trusts Dante Foreman. He really believes that this guy is going to run down Tampa Bay's throat. Look, they have one of the best rushing defenses in the last 3 years, and now he just
ran for over 100 yards.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I think
the Panthers ran for over 180 yards. I think something around that.
Yeah, it's more than
anybody should be running for on Tampa Bay is what we think.
On any defense overall.
Yeah, in
Carolina
general.
has 1 win this year. or now 2. But like, you gotta think about that. If they're running the ball like this without McCaffrey, I wonder what's gonna happen next week. And they can't pass the ball with PJ Walker. So I still think Donta Foreman is a good pick. So
Definitely. Well,
Matt, why don't you give us our start?
Matt,
Sure,
you ready
yeah,
for me to
fine.
cue?
Come on, Jake.
Go, come on, man. Who's your pick? Who's your
My
start?
start is Terry McLaurin.
Oh, wow.
Receiver from Commanders. I think the offensive struggles before last week were hindering his performance. He's a very talented receiver. We all know that. You know, he last year 1,000 yards. But definitely the offensive struggles with the Commanders with Carson Wentz at the helm has definitely been, you know, a disaster so far. But with Taylor Heineke now, they have great chemistry. He had 8 targets last week. He had 18 points. Even though he faces a tough defense against receivers in Indianapolis, I think he will still have a big week with Heineke at quarterback.
Wow, so we have two Commanders quarterbacks. I mean, 2 Commanders offensive players as a start. So maybe the Commanders offense booms and goes off this week.
I don't think that happens. I think they're so bad that they run the ball and they realize that Brian Robinson is going to lead them to the Holy Land. So,
And I'm going to bounce off the Taylor Heineke thing that you were saying. As much as Carson Wentz is probably just better than Taylor Heineke, Heineke has a lot more trust in McLaurin. You see especially a lot of the video that we just played is McLaurin going up and getting passes that Heineke shouldn't be throwing. But that's what McLaurin does.
Honestly, he's due for that because he's so talented and he's very skilled. So I think he's definitely that guy that, you know, you can rely on as your number 1 threat. And
sure.
Heineke realizes that. So
Heineke's had him for what, 4 years now, 3 or 4 years? However long it's been, Heineke knows that he can just throw him and let's see if he can do
exactly.
I mean, look at him last year. He had that sideline catch. Like he's a dog.
Chargers, yeah.
And that end zone catch last week, I think that
on Jair Alexander,
Alexander,
supposed to lock him down.
Yeah, that's what Brandon said was going to happen last week, but that did not happen.
That
He
was-
had 19 points. I think almost 19 points last week.
He's a dog.
But hey, even if Taylor Heineke's not in the game, they put in Sam Howell from UNC. I still think they're gonna. A rookie quarterback's gonna lean on his best receiver.
Yeah, for sure.
Whatever quarterback's in this Commanders offense, which is most likely gonna be Taylor Heineke, unless an injury or horrible QB play happens. I think Tim McLaurin's gonna do great. I think he'll do great.
That's why I wouldn't be surprised. So
Yeah. Well, let's see. So we talk about our guys who we put in the back pocket. We talk about the guys we put on our starting lineup. Who's the guys we're throwing in the trash can, Javi?
Oof. This week, I'm actually going to go with surprising name, DeAndre Swift. He's coming back from crazy, well, not even that crazy. He's coming back from injury. Jamal Williams proved that he has that dog in him to run like a beast. And if Swift's missed this long from week 2, week 3, he's missed 4 or 5 weeks. If he's missed that long, and he said that even last week he was pushing towards playing. So he didn't even know if he was 100%, like Keenan Allen, who had 1 or 2 receptions for like 11 yards. Yeah. I still think that against Miami's defense, who, they struggle, but at the same time they do have
a stout defense.
Yeah, they have really good defensive players on that with Jerome Baker and Jalen Phillips, who I feel can Christian Wilkins. They can stop the run.
All right,
so I believe that.
Calm down.
All right, Saints guy, you started Chris Olave.
Let's calm down a little bit, Dolphins fan.
I don't know. I just think that why would they veer away from Jamal Williams or Craig Reynolds, who has proven that they both can run the ball very well? Why would they risk putting in DeAndre Swift for a bunch of plays on a bunch of targets this week? I just don't think it's logical, so that's why I would stay away from it.
I'm gonna just say we love it, Jake. The goal line touches. It's
Yeah.
Jamal Williams' goal line there.
Oh.
If DeAndre Swift isn't breaking a big receiving touchdown or a big long run, Jamal Williams is gonna get that touch inside the 10-yard line.
Well, yeah, no. I mean, I don't even think DeAndre Swift doesn't even know what it feels like to run within the 10
Within the 10-yard line, it's just
unknown
territory.
It's unknown territory.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens. But yeah, that's what I'm throwing away.
Yeah, I mean, even if he does play, I don't think they're gonna play him that much this week.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You don't want to hurt him for the rest of the season. You want to keep him in.
Plus, you said it. They found 2 guys behind DeAndre Swift that you can trust. Yeah. Now you've got 3 guys that have to get carries. One of them's your top dog, the guy that you need for the rest of your franchise. You want DeAndre Swift as healthy as possible, and the Lions season doesn't look amazing right now. No.
And the fact that he was even pushing towards playing last week, you kind of want to stay away from that.
Scares you, yeah.
And as Dan Campbell, I wouldn't play him. But if you are going to play him, I would stay away from him.
Yeah. Well, let's see what happens with that this week. Now, my stat of the week is another NFC North running back who just had a huge week against the Commanders' defense. Aaron Jones is my sit. And I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with that. He finished with over 75 all-purpose yards last week with 2 touchdowns. And he didn't even, he had the close touchdown at the end of the game. The game, not tying. What was it, 1 point away?
Yeah, he
something around that.
He put them within.
Put them within 2 points. And he rushed the ball 8 times for 23 yards to be exact. That's nothing special. That's less than 4 yards to carry. But he did get targeted 10 times, which is a lot. And,
volume.
And
That's
that,
what we love.
exactly, we love that. And he had the 2 scores. Now the Packers are struggling offensively this year, and they're averaging just 18.3 points a game this season. Plus, Jones and the Packers play a very good defense in Buffalo, who I think they've gotten a little healthier with Von Miller and a few guys, even though they're missing the starting safety Micah Hyde. So, and the Bills defense he's been giving up 281 yards this year, which is one of the best, which ranked actually first in the NFL. So, with the tough matchup he has, I don't think Aaron Jones is going to be, I don't think he's the guy you should start. Not running back 1 or running back 2, maybe flex, but I think you should bench him this week.
I think, listen, you look at Buffalo's defense and you see a bunch of guys who want to win. And I think they are, if not behind Philly, I think they're the best defense in football.
For sure.
So to start Aaron Jones, who's been in a struggling offense, who cannot run or pass the ball, I don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to do in Buffalo.
Against Buffalo. That's going to be...
But if anybody's going to get touches, I think it's going to be A.J. Dillon. I don't think it's going to be Aaron Jones.
Oh.
I think it's going to be A.J. Dillon because A.J. Dillon is that pound the rock kind of guy, run straight. He's I think, especially goal line touches, I think it's going to go to A.J. Dillon. But
You fit perfectly. You fit perfectly in this show. Goal line touches.
We should give you a spot right here versus the rest of the year.
I mean, I'm more than welcome to, so let me know. I'll be there.
No, but yeah, I agree with you. A.J. Dillon's going to be the guy who pounds the ball, and even if they're playing from behind, I think we should try to run the clock out.
I'm gonna go out and throw an honorary sit Aaron Rodgers. It's just bad time to have him in your roster.
Oh man,
That's not my sit
for
though.
sure.
I don't even know. Romeo Doubs proved that he was a beast this year, and then all of a sudden,
Did he have a catch this week? I don't think he did.
I don't even know.
I
But
don't know.
Lazard, I don't know about Lazard because
The whole Packers offense, we just don't know about this.
Yeah,
They're
sure.
very unpredictable at this point.
yeah, I mean,
know.
I think Lazard is very trustworthy, but you gotta look at again. Buffalo's defense is full of stars. I don't know how they lose the Super Bowl this year. I don't know how they will.
Wow.
Well, let's see. Well, another
That's
thing
my hot take, too.
yeah, that's a big hot take from you, Abby. Well, another thing we don't know about is Victor's start of the week. So, Victor, who's your start of the week?
My start was Deontay Foreman, but my sit is Naji Harris,
Oh,
Jake.
Sid. Wow. I'm
You're on a roll,
Yeah,
Jake.
you're all over the place.
So, yeah, I'm sitting Naji Harris, Javi's very own Steeler. I'm not necessarily saying to sit him immediately, but I'd reconsider starting him, if that makes
I'm
sense.
fighting demons. I'm fighting demons to put him on my flex.
He's become a glorified flex option. The Steelers' offense, their play calling isn't good. The offensive line is one of the worst in the league.
The worst. I'm
The
gonna say
worst,
The
wow.
worst.
It's just as much as Naji is a talented player, you saw it last year, you saw it at Alabama, and you see the flashes this year. He's gonna get those good plays. He's gonna make work, but it's not a favorable offense for him. And I mean, a lot of his work last year was in the receiving game. It seems like he hasn't been involved in the receiving game at all this year.
New
They play
quarterback.
two new quarterbacks. They play a really good Philly defense this week, and I'd very much consider sitting him. I think he's a safe flex option just because he's been averaging. I mean, as I said, he's a glorified flex option at this point.
He's Naji Harris.
He's Naji Harris. He's at the end of the day, he's a very talented player, and any week he could get that touchdown. He could get that 40-yard run that puts you up another 5-6 points. But at the end of the day, he's just not a safe player at this point in the season.
Well, I don't know about that 40-yard run. I don't think he's ran for over 20 yards this year. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I think that Kenny Pickett's starting to trust him in the passing game. He had 5 targets last week, 3 receptions. I think that he's a dog. I keep saying that people are dogs, but he's a dog. But like I just said, Philly's defense is probably the best in the NFL. So I do not see them allowing more than 10, 17 points this week to Pittsburgh. So I personally, as much as I hate to say this, I would stay away from Naji Harris.
And again, a great player, but fantasy, we're looking at a lot of guys. I've noticed this year, if you're not 7-0, you're 1-6 in fantasy.
That's
So
a lot.
you
of
have
guys
to
on this team.
you have to
Acquired, yeah.
reconsider. You have to reconsider players on your lineup that you should be trusting, but you just can't. You can't trust everybody in fantasy.
Yeah, and also last year we're talking about his good production last year. He also got fed the ball. Like
Yeah.
he was
Ben loved
stuffed.
him.
Ben loved him. And who wouldn't love him? I mean, I get it. He's a great running back, but this year he's been proving everyone wrong, with a bad way though.
Yeah.
By not playing up to his usual level.
I wouldn't even say that. I think you got to look at the fact that Pittsburgh lost a couple of guys on the O-line. We have a new quarterback who doesn't even really trust his running backs. He's trying to force the ball to Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool and George Pickens, who he's
phenomenal.
Again, number one rookie receiver.
Yeah,
but
no, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Naji Harris has a lot to prove, especially the rest of this year and next year. So let's see how he does this week. I hope he booms. I hope you're wrong. So
I hope Victor's wrong too. Matt, who's your sit of the week?
Well, speaking of reconsidering guys in your lineup because you're 1-6, which is me, I'm sitting Leonard Fournette, my former RB2.
Four elite rookie running backs across the board in our sets.
So the Bucks haven't had an ideal season so far offensively, not what we expected. Last week he had 8 carries for 19 yards against Carolina, pretty abysmal, I'd say.
Abysmal.
He also shared the backfield with Rashad White. He had 6 carries for 24 yards, so he outran Leonard Fournette with 2 less carries. He's been solid this season. I've loved him. But this past week, it made me kind of think a little bit and think like, I don't know if I really trust him in this offense right now. After this shocking loss to a bottom 5 team in Carolina, so I don't know. He's kind of like a risky sit to me because honestly, he's been great this year, but especially the last couple weeks, this Tampa Bay offense has really made me think a lot about, is Leonard Fournette a guy that I really trust as the guy that's gonna get me wins? And I don't know.
It looked like that at the start of the year, but he's just
I mean, even up until before last week, he was doing good, but it's just last week he laid a terrible egg. He had 5 points, and it made me kind of reconsider having him in my lineup.
The Bucs offense has been bad, and it sucks because Leonard Fournette has kind of been he's always been their safe option. They have the Mike Evans, they have Chris Godwin, they had Gronk last year. This year it's Cameron Braid, I think. Cade Otton, him. But Leonard Fournette was always the guy that they could fall on. They give him the ball a lot, receiving game and rushing game, but he just hasn't worked with it. So.
Yeah, it's weird. Honestly, I think he's a great running back, great power back. He can do everything, but I don't know. At this point in the season where the Tampa Bay is now, I don't know if I trust him.
Any, except for Chris Godwin so far, I don't know if I trust
just because of sheer volume.
Bucs player.
And Mike Evans too.
Ooh, that's I'm gonna disagree with you actually. I believe that Brady's out for blood, especially against Baltimore. Thursday night game, Brady always plays amazing on primetime. And we haven't seen a good Thursday night game, well, besides last week, I'm sorry.
It was a great game. Great game to watch.
We haven't seen a great Thursday night game besides last week, so I think Brady's going to prove us all wrong, and I think that with that comes Lenny. I think Lenny gets a couple receptions, maybe a touchdown, but I think the Tampa Bay offense will explode this week.
Yeah, no, Tom Brady has a long history of proving everybody wrong, since multiple years since his career started.
Even in college.
Yeah, even in college. So I mean, I would not be surprised if he does, but I think Leonard Fournette right now, based on how it's gone, especially last week, I'd say I don't know if I trust him.
It's a risky sit, but I can see where you're coming from.
Go big or go home.
Speaking of Tom Brady, did you guys know he played linebacker in high school?
No.
Bet you didn't.
He got drafted to the MLB?
I actually didn't know that.
You know who else got drafted to the MLB?
A lot of people.
The man who smoked you last week, Kyler Murray.
Yeah. Well, that's not.
All right, Javi. Way to get violent.
Let's not talk about
the short
that.
king.
The short king. Yeah, man.
I respect the short kings. So.
Yeah. Well, guys, everyone on the table had great picks, especially for me. Maybe not Victor. I don't know about that. But guys, going into week 8, what are your thoughts?
I'm thinking another Dolphins win.
I'm thinking that too. I definitely agree.
Okay. Steelers, not so much.
Well, like I said, Philly has the best defense in football, but Kenny Pickett's going to prove everybody wrong.
Philadelphia's still undefeated, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, they are.
I feel like Philadelphia's going to be another Arizona Cardinals. They're going to go 10 games undefeated, and then they're going to fall off. That's what I think.
Well, look, there you are. Pittsburgh Steelers. Best team in football.
The best. This week, who I think is going to win is right there, Saints. Saints are going to eat a W this week, and Jameis. Huh?
Who they?
No, who that is going to win He's gonna win this week, and we're gonna eat a W. I'm not saying that.
Okay, buddy.
Like
All
that.
right, yeah.
Well,
I
let's
don't
see.
wanna
Well,
talk about
let's see.
Alright, Jake.
Well, let's see how everyone does this week. You know,
Thanks,
everyone.
Jake.
Yeah, I know. Everyone wants to win the prized head. So, let's see who wins it next week. Well, Wolverine Nation, that was week 8 of Waiver Wire. I'm Jake Camejo.
I'm Victor Torres.
I'm Matthew Barturin.
And I'm Javi Suarez.
Thanks for watching.